Hello everyone, this is News Distillate, your go-to source for daily news, where we will provide you with the news you need without taking up too much of your time. And now, let's get started with our first news with my co-host, Emma.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Hussein. My name is Emma, and I'm here to bring you the latest news from the G7 summit. This weekend, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the G7 summit in Hiroshima, Japan. The G7 is a yearly gathering of the world's wealthiest and most powerful democracies, such as the United States, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Canada. Zelensky was there to discuss the progress in Ukraine and to get support from the other countries. Recently, Russia declared victory in the city of Bakhmut, where some of the most intense fighting has taken place. However, Zelensky said that the city was completely destroyed and that Ukrainian forces are still fighting and have not given up. At the summit, U.S. President Joe Biden promised to give Ukraine $375 million in military aid, including ammunition and armored vehicles. He also said that Ukraine could get training on American-made F-16 fighter jets. Zelensky promised that the jets would not be used to attack targets in Russia. Zelensky also tried to win the support of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has been one of the few countries to remain friendly with Russia during the war. While Modi said he would do what he could to end the war, his attitude on the conflict didn't seem to change. In the end, Zelensky was able to secure military aid from the G7 summit, including advanced fighter jets. This is an important step in Ukraine's fight against Russia, and hopefully it will help them take back occupied land. So, Hussein, what news do you have for us?
Oh, today we have some interesting news. The Biden administration has announced a nearly $11 billion investment to bring affordable, clean energy to rural communities throughout the country. This is the largest single federal investment in rural electrification since President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Rural Electrification Act in 1936 as part of the New Deal. The Empowering Rural America program will make $9.7 billion available for rural electric cooperatives to create renewable energy, zero emission, and carbon capture systems. This program is designed to provide affordable, clean energy to vulnerable, disadvantaged, and indigenous communities. Jim Matheson, CEO of the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, praised the administration for the investment. The Powering Affordable Clean Energy program will make $1 billion available in partially forgivable loans for renewable energy companies and electric utilities to help finance renewable energy projects such as large-scale solar, wind, and geothermal projects. This program is designed to help rural electric cooperatives, renewable energy companies, and electric utilities to apply for funding. Experts have said that these programs could have a significant impact for rural America. The Empowering Rural America program has the potential to help rural electric co-ops and municipal co-ops move the needle toward a cleaner, less carbon-intensive electricity mix. Funding for the new programs comes from the Inflation Reduction Act, which has generated hundreds of billions of dollars for renewable energy transition and environmental cleanup. This is an exciting opportunity for the Rural Utility Service to work collaboratively with our great partners, the rural electric cooperatives, in order to advance a clean energy future for rural America. So it looks like the Biden administration is investing in renewable energy sources to power rural communities and help them become more self-sufficient. This is great news for rural communities, and it's a step in the right direction for a cleaner, greener future. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Hussein. It looks like the next show you watch could be filmed in Mexico City. The Biden administration's investment in clean energy is helping to create jobs and economic opportunities in rural areas, and this could also benefit Mexico City's film industry. Foreign companies are looking to save money by taking advantage of the lower costs and experienced Mexican crews. Production designer Monica Bidot is one of the many talented Mexican crew members working on sets in Mexico City. Her job is to make Mexico City look like anywhere USA. She and her team have recreated the Ganges River on Mexico City's Xochimilco canals and have transformed an orchard, taping almond flowers onto the end of hundreds of pear branches. The Mexico City Film Commission approved 1,289 productions in 2022, an all-time high for commercials, TV, films, and documentaries. Mexican crews are hoping to deliver a better quality than in the U.S., and they are constantly trying to bring more to the table. Director Fiona McGee is working with an experienced Mexican crew on a commercial, and she's been delighted by some of the advantages of filming in Mexico. Rolling sets allow her to focus solely on directing without delays, and they tend to be a third of the cost of a comparable LA production. Mexico has a rich history and culture of film, and behind the scenes are thousands of experienced camera operators, production designers, gaffers, and grips. Mexico has become more and more attractive for foreign film investment in recent years, and in 2022, 36% of Mexican Filmmakers Association members' work came from production services for foreign companies. Though there are some exploitative foreign companies, the National Film Commission is currently developing industry standards in collaboration with U.S. counterparts. More of what appears on American television in the future is likely to be made in Mexico, so the next time you watch a show, you might just be watching a production from Mexico City. Back to you, Hussein.
Thank you, Emma. It's time to talk about the Biden administration's investment in clean energy and how it's had a positive effect on Mexico City's film industry. But the same can't be said for the residents of Satasha, Mississippi. The US government's decision to expand CO2 pipelines has left them poisoned, hospitalized, and traumatized. On February 22, 2020, Demarest Deborah Burns, his brother and cousin, were headed home in a red Cadillac when they heard a boom and saw a big white cloud shooting into the sky. Burns' first thought was a pipeline explosion. He called his mum, Thelma Brown, to warn her to get inside. Brown gathered her young grandchild and great-grandchildren she was watching, took them into her back bedroom and got under the quilt with them. Little did they know the cloud of carbon dioxide was hampering the emergency response. Combustion engines need oxygen to work, and as the carbon dioxide displaced oxygen in the air, many cars stopped running. Jerry Briggs, a fire coordinator from Warren County, was searching the area in a utility terrain vehicle when he and his team found a red Cadillac with what looked like 3 men passed out inside. At first, Briggs wasn't sure if they were alive. When they broke open the car windows, they found Burns, his brother and cousin, all unconscious. The medical team at the hospital sent them home after a few hours, but the following day, struggling to breathe, Burns came back to the hospital. He, his brother and cousin ended up taking oxygen tanks around with them for several months. Stanley treats patients who were in the area the night of the pipeline rupture, including residents and first responders. His patients with asthma do show some increased frequency and severity of their asthmatic exacerbations. Regulators also found that the company failed to recognize the risks that the weather and soil posed to the pipeline. Unlike the Mississippi Delta, which is famously flat, nearby Satasha is hilly. Federal regulators determined that all the rain in the weeks and months beforehand caused the uneven ground to shift and the pipeline to rupture. In an emailed statement to NPR, a Denbury spokesperson says they fully cooperated with regulators to investigate what happened and worked with local officials to address the impacts. Denbury is an industry leader in carbon dioxide transportation, and we remain committed to continually improving pipeline safety, the statement said. Other pipeline industry executives point out that the accident rate of their network is low. But Briggs, the fireman who rescued the men from the Cadillac, says when people in the industry say pipelines are safe, he gets frustrated. He thinks people need to understand the risks of CO2 poisoning and potential pipeline ruptures. Karam of the Pipeline Safety Trust says if there's a disaster while the CO2 is a gas or other unregulated state, I worry about a good lawyer getting an operator out of any kind of liability. There are other potential regulatory gaps. CO2 itself is odorless, so is natural gas, but companies add an odorant to alert people to its presence. There is currently no such requirement for CO2. NPR spoke with leadership at 4 companies building thousands of miles of new carbon dioxide pipelines across the United States. Most had heard of what happened in Satasha. We take those learnings and we study those cases and we implement safeguards so we don't repeat those incidents, says Renewable of NLink, who says they educate local communities about what will go through the pipe. Huffman worries that many CO2 pipelines and carbon capture projects will end up extending the life of fossil fuel operations. This entire strategy is being represented as a climate solution, when most of the time it's really not. Most of the time it's really part of the climate problem. Back in Satasha, Burns walks by the spot on the road where the Cadillac stalled and he lost consciousness. These days, Burns avoids this patch of road. Emergency Director Willingham says in an ideal world, these CO2 pipelines wouldn't get built. If they are, he thinks everyone needs to learn about Satasha. He says, and I think that the question that your decision makers have to ask themselves is, do you want to live on that pipeline? It's a sad story and one that needs to be heard. We need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect our communities from the dangers of CO2 pipelines. We need to make sure that we are educating our communities about the risks and that we are taking the necessary precautions to ensure that these pipelines are safe. So let's make sure that we are doing our part to keep our communities safe. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Hussein. This is Emma, and I'm here to talk about a high school senior from Texas who is doing something truly remarkable. His name is John Doe, and he's developed an AI-based system to detect suicide risk in text messages. It's no secret that suicide is a major issue in our society, and it's especially concerning when it comes to teens. That's why John Doe is taking action and using technology to help. His system scans text messages for signs of suicide risk, and he hopes that it will eventually replace outdated methods of diagnosis. But this isn't just a science project. It's a way to help people. Colorado-based psychologist Nathan Demers believes that personalized tools like John's could help fill a void and help people recognize underlying mental health issues. John presented his project at a local science fair, and he was asked some tough questions. But he was up for the challenge and learned a lot from the experience. He believes that we should be doing more to address suicide intervention from an innovation perspective. Of course, there are still some kinks to work out. John admits that the majority of his predictions are false positives, and there is a cost to telling someone they're at risk of suicide when they're not. But that doesn't mean we should give up. There are a lot of AI-backed tools available to track youth mental health, and they can be used to support students rather than discipline them. It's important to do the research to make sure these tools are the right solution. At the end of the day, technology can help us know who is at risk and when, but people still need to talk to humans. John Doe's project is a great start, and I'm sure it will make a difference in the lives of many.
Wow, Emma, that's really impressive. John Doe is doing something amazing with his AI-based system.
Absolutely. It's a great way to help people recognize underlying mental health issues and potentially save lives.
It's definitely a noble cause, but there are still some kinks to work out.
Yes, that's true, but John's project is a great start, and I'm sure it will make a difference. Okay then, what's our next news, Hussein?
Thank you, Emma. We've all heard of the popular video game, The Legend of Zelda. But what makes it so successful? Well, it's all about breaking the game in your own way. It all started with a hilarious mistake. The player grabbed a minecart, some glider wings and 2 fans and put them all together. He then proceeded to barrel off a cliff with his little Korok friend, only to find out that there was only one parachute. As you can guess, the little forest companion didn't make it to safety. The Legend of Zelda has been praised for its open-ended nature. Players are given the freedom to explore and create their own stories. This is a stark contrast to other video games, which are more linear and restrictive. It's this freedom that has made the game so popular. The Legend of Zelda also allows players to experiment with the game. They can try out different combinations of items and see what happens. This encourages players to think outside the box and come up with creative solutions to problems. The Legend of Zelda has also been praised for its immersive world. Players can explore a vast and detailed landscape full of secrets and surprises. This encourages players to explore and discover new things. The Legend of Zelda has been a huge success, and it's all thanks to its open-ended nature. Players are given the freedom to explore and create their own stories. This encourages players to think outside the box and come up with creative solutions to problems. So if you're looking for a game that will keep you entertained for hours, then The Legend of Zelda is the game for you.
Wow, Hussein, that was an amazing coverage of The Legend of Zelda. It's no wonder why it's so popular.
Absolutely. It's all about the freedom to explore and create your own stories. That's what makes it so unique.
I couldn't agree more. It's such an immersive world full of secrets and surprises.
Yeah, that's what makes it so great. Okay then, what's our next news, Emma?
Thank you, Hussein. I'm here to bring you the latest news from Montana, and it's not good. Last December, the state banned TikTok on government devices, and now they're banning it outright. This is a huge blow to content creators like Christian W. Poole, who has been dubbed the unofficial ambassador of Montana. Christian has been using his platform to share his musings about the culture, everyday life, and quirks of the picturesque state. He's gained a following of over 400,000 people, but he doesn't make much money from it. The ban could mean he loses his connection to all those followers, which he says is his favorite hobby in the world. The ban is set to take effect on January 1st, 2024, and platforms offering the app could face fines of up to $10,000 a day. Montana is the first state to pursue an outright ban on TikTok, but others have moved to restrict its download on government phones and school-owned devices. The ban is fueled by privacy concerns over the Chinese-owned app, but there's no direct evidence of the Chinese government accessing user data. Montana's Governor Greg Gianforte says it's all about protecting people from the Chinese Communist Party. Christian worries this could be the start of something bigger, with the government controlling more and more of what we can and can't do. The ACLU says the government can't impose a total ban on a social media platform unless there is an immediate harm to national security, and they don't believe there's enough evidence to support the idea that TikTok is a threat. White House officials are also threatening to ban the app nationally unless parent company ByteDance finds an American buyer. For now, Christian will keep on posting, but if the ban goes through, he'll have to migrate his followers to other platforms. So that's the latest news from Montana. It's a shame that content creators like Christian could be affected by this ban, but hopefully it won't come to that. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.